five-time Pro World Champion Swain, simply the best player in the world. Great athletic move by Swain to get it out of the way to finish off that shot against Robinson. Looks like he is thinking through this bad call by the referee. Swain served a blistering 185 miles per hour, unreachable in that serve against Swain puts it away. He is still the best player in the world.
I think the reason I've won more over the years than some of the other players is that I show up to play hard every single day, and that's not always an easy thing to do.
Everybody wants to win. It's why we train, it's why we compete, heck, it's why we keep score. Hi, I'm Lynn Adams, Manager of Education and Player Development at Wilson Racquetball. Champions fascinate us and they inspire us. We can't seem to get enough of champions, and maybe that's because we know that only a very select few ever reach the pinnacle of success. So what makes a champion? Why do they win over and over, and what do they do that none of the rest of us do? We're going to look into two perspectives, very unique perspectives of what makes a champion. We're going to be talking to Cliff Swain, who's the #1 racquetball player in the world and 5-time professional racquetball champion. We'll also be talking to Derek Robinson, who's a 2-time gold medalist in amateur play and the current #6 ranked player on the tour today. We'll discover what makes a champion tick and what tips we can learn from them so that we can go on a quest to be the best player that we can possibly be.
I think you see in the most successful athletes, and Larry Bird was a great role model for me in this way. I just heard so much about his work ethic, and you would think a guy with that much success, especially after gaining that success and winning NBA titles and making millions of dollars, that he wouldn't be the first guy to practice and he wouldn't be the last one to leave. Yet he was, consistently, probably right to the very last day that he played. He also did it because he wanted to and loved every second of it, and that's how I feel.
Cliff Swain is the best at racquetball because of commitment. He has committed his life at this point to be the #1 player in the world. And that is what I have learned from him. That it's not a one-night thing, it's not a one-weekend thing. It is a life commitment on everything that you do to excel at the game of racquetball.
The most important thing is the mental side of it, and then there's the other side of the technical skill. You know, the forehand, the backhand, the serve return. Will those things hold up in pressure? You're playing against someone who's at your same level. You want to win more than the other guy, mentally. Physically, you're more prepared. Technically, you're more skilled. You shouldn't lose. Winning, everything. Losing, the worst. Losing is painful. It causes insomnia.
Winning is tough. Losing is difficult, but everybody loses. Not very many people win at all.
Sports and racquetball are games of momentum. And if I'm up, if I have a big lead and I feel it slipping, I think it's just a little bit of a change in momentum. So what I do at that point is to try and change the momentum again. He's either made the game faster or slower in between points, or the actual strategy of the game. So I just try and change that. I'll take timeouts, I'll stall, wipe up the floor, I'll do whatever it takes to change the momentum back to my side. It's just a matter of time. I try to think about what I was doing when I was successful physically. You know, my workouts, what was I doing, how was I practicing, how often, how was my diet, and then I also think about what my frame of mind was like. And I try and work back towards those positive things. When I have those going, when I get those going again, it's usually when I come out of a slump.
I had to reevaluate, get back to the basic fundamental of the game of racquetball and really evaluate how that applied to what I was doing on the court. I think you have to be proactive. I don't think there's anything, reactive is one that you kind of deny it and you never kind of face to face with it.
If I am losing a match, I start to think about what happens if I lose. And that's when I'm not at my best. And the same thing happens if it's, oh God, I'm about to win. Neither of those are good. I always try and, whenever I feel myself having any thoughts like that outside of the moment, I just try and bring myself right back there, just right in the moment. It's a combination of things that will get me back to that moment. Sometimes it'll be a very physical thing where I just look at the ball. I'll just stare at the ball, whether it's in the server's hand or if I'm bouncing around the court. Like I'm playing a game like a little kid, it's just a game, just get right back in the moment. And then other times when it's more of a nervous thing, I'll just take deep breaths, just really try and relax to get myself out of an outcome frame of mind back into the immediate task at hand. If I ever feel myself losing my temper or getting angry, the thing that really gets me away from that is how it looks. You know, people that I admire, other athletes that I admire are people who don't do that. Bobby Orr is one of my favorites. Larry Bird, you just never saw him really complaining, and I've done it, hopefully I'll never do it again, but I just think about what it looks like. When a ref makes a bad call, I try to just accept it. I try to say, refs are going to miss calls. It's a hard game to referee, and deal with it. Just accept it. If you go in expecting the referee to make every single call your way, you're going to be disappointed and angry, and it's going to affect your game. If you go in expecting him to miss calls, and boom, there it is, he misses a call, it's not a big surprise. You turn around, you receive serve, and you get the guy out of the box. It's just all in how you look at it.
You have to find something that works for you. I've been through them all, not proud of it, but I've broken rackets because I've been upset, and that doesn't help. And I've kept it all inside, and that doesn't help, so I need to verbalize it a little bit. If I just voice verbally my concern that I don't agree with their call, I think then they will maybe take that opinion and then be more toned to maybe give me a call later on or not be upset with me.
That's usually what makes people choke in my mind. They think people are going to talk about me if I lose. They don't think I'm the same guy, especially professionals. I know professional athletes, when they lose, they put so much emphasis of their life into their sport, they feel like less of a man if they lose, and I know I've felt like that. So not putting that kind of pressure on myself, whether it's preparing for a match or actually being in a match, it's just not good for me. So when I get myself out of that frame of mind, the choking or that nervous feeling, it can go away almost immediately. Just those nice, deep, relaxing breaths.
Learn how to breathe. That's probably one of the most important things that I do on the racquetball court when things get tight.
I think the reason I don't lose to the lower ranked players is that I'm fully confident when I go in to play them. I know I can beat them, but I also know that if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, that I can lose. They are definitely, every single guy that I play against on the Pro Tour is definitely good enough to beat me. And a lot of people don't look at it like that. A lot of people just say, I'm better than him, I'm 1, he's 10, I'm gonna win this match. I give them full respect, and that's another thing that my father always, kind of pounded into my head. He's just go out there and be very businesslike, forget about who you're playing. Just go out there and play your job, play as hard as you can. If you play as hard as you can, he plays as hard as he can, you're gonna win that match. When you have a weakness in your game, which is usually the backhand, but it's different for everybody. Speed, you might have a weak serve. You can't be afraid to attack that. I always did. There was a time when people would say, well, your backhand's not as good as your forehand, and that was probably like them fixing my backhand for me, because that was an automatic competition to me to make my backhand better.
I need to specifically concentrate on those weaknesses, because if I don't, they're always going to be there, and they're going to show up at the least opportune times.
If you have a weakness, you go out there and practice it, knowing that when you're trying to fix a weakness, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better when you make changes. But it will get better, and the results will be worth a little bit of pain. The love of competition. It's very, very driving. It's fun to me. It's serious to me. I don't know why other people don't have it, and I don't even really know why I have it and why, you know, some of the other successful athletes have it. But there's definitely a difference. It was out there pretty early that I was sickly competitive.
I think you have to be more aggressive when you're down. You have to show your opponent that you mean business, even though you're down 4, 5, 6, or 7 points, that you're still playing and that you're ready to compete. If that be, maybe your shots aren't going well, but maybe you're just retrieving and you're able to you start diving more and making them hit 4 or 5 or 6 more shots that they feel necessary to hit or they want to hit. Start putting the pressure back on them. Maybe you don't win that point, but you put a tone to the match that things are changing and that you're coming back and you're going to show them.
That was where I learned another valuable lesson. There was a good friend of mine, Dave Peck, was outside the court, and he just kept doing this to me. He was the guy who kind of taught me the skill side of it especially, but he also helped with the mental side, and he was just doing this just reminding me 1 point at a time. If he was up 10-4 on me, why couldn't I score 7 points in a row? It's very possible. If you think of it 1 point at a time, you break it down like that, you can.
I love to watch racquetball matches, B players or A players or any kind of racquetball match actually, when a person gets up 7 or 8 points in the match. Champion excels at that point, is more aggressive, goes out, tries to win the points, tries to win the match, and crush not only for that game, but maybe that'll carry over into the next game. I've learned that at that point, if I'm up 9-2 in the first game, to completely blow them off the court and let them know that this is one of many games that are going to be similar and that they're not going to build any confidence, and if they're going to beat me, they got to come up and rise to the challenge.
When I was a kid, my dad gave me this one little piece of advice, and I was probably 13 years old, but it just stuck with me. He said, play every point like it's the last point. And sounds like a pretty simple thing, but not everyone does. So now I kind of put my own little thing on that. I play every point like it's the last point, but I also play it like it's the first point. If you play it like it's the last point, you might put a little too much pressure on yourself, where I just try to make it just another point and play every point as hard as you can. And whenever I do that, I'm pretty successful.
The best advice I ever got was to believe in myself, that I was good enough to compete on the level that I'm competing at, and that I'm good enough to compete at a higher level that I'm competing at.
My ultimate goal is to be the best I can be. And if my talent and my mental abilities would only allow me to be number 5, and I knew that and believed, I'd be okay with that. But I don't believe that, and I know that some of the gifts I've been given and the ability, I know that I'm capable of being number 1 still and for years to come. So if I'm not doing that, if that isn't the case, then I'm doing something wrong. reach your goals and you do it over and over, it's hard to continuously stay there. It's very easy when you're number 2 to find what your goal is. It's to be number 1. It's very specific, and it's just right there in front of your face all the time. When you're number 1, it's harder.
You can't get to the top if it's 20 feet high by just taking one big jump. It's a step-by-step process that you're trying to accomplish.
Before, when I'd get nervous about being nervous. Like, you know, what's wrong with me? Why am I nervous? And I'd get anxious thinking about what happens if I lose, what happens if I win. Until I was reading a book one day, and the guy said, if you're nervous or you're afraid, think of it as a good sign that you care. I get more concerned when I don't have any fear at all. So once I started working with it, rather than battling it, you know, thinking there's something wrong with me, you know, every athlete doesn't want to hear about choking, or they don't even like to admit that they're nervous. I think it's a good sign. If you don't feel that, then there's a good chance you're overconfident, or you don't care enough.
I probably become more aggressive at what I'm trying to accomplish. I try to over-exaggerate every motion, driving through the front wall when I'm serving.
I was up 9-3 in the tiebreaker. I was already driving that thing home, and at that point at 9-3, I was thinking about winning. I've won. He was very defeated. He had that look that we worked so hard for. I was salivating. And then he hit a couple good shots. I think maybe I got a bad call. I missed a couple shots. Next thing you know, it's 9-8. Now I'm thinking about losing. So in a matter of 15 minutes, I did 2 very wrong things. I was thinking about winning before I won, and then I was thinking about losing before I lost. He came back and he won 11-9, and I flew home. He drove home. Took me less time, but he had a nice car. That one shook me up for a while. I was number 1 player at the end of the year, but I couldn't think about anything but that one tournament. And in the long run, it ended up helping me, because I never, since that day, I've never once thought about, I've never thought I've won this match until I've won it. Not one single time, and I pray I never do it again.
I used to do nothing. When something like that would happen, when I would have a loss such as that, I used to do nothing at all when I'd go home. It would be such a depressing thing for me that I could go home and not touch a racket for 2 or 3 weeks. And I learned that that was probably even more of a negative situation on what had already occurred. And so today, I might even, if I lose on a Saturday night because I've lost because I didn't prepare, I might be out there that Saturday night hitting or working out, or Sunday morning I might get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go for a run and get a 3-hour workout in the morning, and to take the initiative and be aggressive, just like on the racquetball court, do everything that I can to overcome that and to break through that barrier and teach myself that that's never going to happen again, that I'm not going to come unprepared.
Working, I love running. I love running hills, sprints, lifting weights, trying to improve myself. And then there are other times I don't feel like doing it. It's much easier to go play a game or golf or sit on the couch. It's just easier sometimes. That's when I try and find some motivation. I know on a Friday night at 10 o'clock when I'm on the life cycle that there's a good chance that the other players aren't there. Now, how much that actual 45 minutes on the life cycle physically helps me, I'm not sure. I'm sure it helps a little bit, but I know the mental edge that kind of thing gives to me. There's this one hill that I run at home. Actually, it's a mountain that they ski on, but it's a small mountain. It only takes me 3 minutes to run up, but it's the most torturous 3 minutes that I can think of, really, self-inflicting torture. There's probably only 30 seconds of it that are easy, and it's the first 30 seconds, and then the incline gets very drastic. Your steps are probably only 6 inches wide, and you're working as hard as you possibly can, and everything in me is telling me to quit. My legs are completely shot. My lungs are wide open. It's even hard to see the ground. It's just that steep. And I don't quit. I get to the top, and it only takes me 3 minutes, and I've done it with other people and they've gotten sick, physically sick doing it. And pushing myself to do that makes me really push when it comes time to play.
Training with weights is a very important. I think one thing reduces the soreness, and that your muscles are used to maximizing that, like you do when you play a racquetball tournament. If I can reduce the soreness on Monday after a racquetball tournament, then I'm able to work out, get full workouts in again, quicker, better workouts. One of the things I'll do is, let's say it'd be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'll do upper body. And that might be bench press, tricep pull downs, seated row, those kind of things on the upper body. And then I'll do leg press or squats on the Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays, trying to work that whole body, different parts of the body, but in different parts of the day. I love to play basketball. I do a lot of running, do yoga, a lot of different variety of workouts that I do. I try to mix it up as much as I can. I'm doing hill sprints, and I did 10 now and 10 yesterday, and I'm out there and I'm going to try to do 12 today. Push myself as much as I can at the different workouts that I'm doing.
If you're practiced and you've learned the correct skills and you don't have major flaws, that's the kind of thing that's probably made me win matches when I'm not prepared, where, if someone has a glaring weakness, I don't really have to be in great shape. I don't like to not be in great shape, but if that weakness is there, it's going to show. Running, training, practicing, working on the mental side of it, those are all confidence builders, definitely. When I'm physically or mentally exhausted in the match, I'm out there playing with another guy, there's just no way that he's not feeling the same thing. That's when I go back to how much training I've done, how prepared am I. And if I know that I'm prepared, it has to be as bad or worse for him. If it's not like that, that's where the unhealthy fear comes in. If you know when you haven't done enough, you know when you've cheated a little bit here and there, that kind of fear is not good. That's a true fear. It's something you should be afraid of, because the other guy's done more than you, and it's probably going to show in the results. So when I'm feeling that, I can, and I've done everything I should, I can feel it as a good thing, because I know he's probably in more shape than me.
Very rarely do you see Cliff get tired when it's 10-9 in the fifth game. Very rarely do you ever see that. And that is because of the training that I've seen off the court.
Champions are indeed a rare breed, but at the core of their success is an almost superhuman drive to compete, to excel, and to win. Not everyone can be a champion, but if we relentlessly pursue to be the best that we can be, at least we have a pretty good start.
I'm not sure what the future holds for me, but I like my